Budweiser Thoroughbred Digest. The weekly national report on thoroughbred racing is brought to you by Budweiser. Beechwood aged for that clean, crisp taste. This Bud's for you. By Thrifty Car Rental. Thrifty is a lot of car rental company for incredibly little. By Lane's End Farms, sponsor of the Thoroughbred Digest Trainer of the Month Award. And by the Naira Net, the New York Racing Association simulcasting network.
And hello again, everyone. I'm Chris Lincoln with another edition of our weekly recap show, the Budweiser Thoroughbred Digest on ESPN. Well, we start with the spotlight on Florida racing. First, the closing of Hialeah, made official for 1990 as track officials there accepted the suspension of their license after they had attempted to cut back to a 3-day-per-week schedule because of poor attendance in their head-to-head competition with Calder. Hialeah has applied, though, for dates in 1991 from January 4th through March the 10th. Meanwhile, Gulfstream Park, site of last fall's Breeders' Cup Day, opened for its 51st season of racing this past Tuesday. President Doug Don gives us this preview of Gulfstream's richest season ever.
This is the largest stake program ever for a track in Florida, and so we're quite enthused about it, and we have, I think, the horses to respond to that type of money. We have Rhythm, the 2-year-old champion. We have Summer Squall, the undefeated 2-year-old last year. We have Polish Numbers, another horse in the Shug McGahee barn. So many of the experts are excited about this crop, and we seem to have most of the best ones right here at Gulfstream.
Well, the 90-day Gulfstream meeting runs through May 4th. As Doug Don said, they've got the richest stake schedule in Florida history, more than $4 million. Let's take a look at the stake schedule. The first graded stake will be the Appleton Handicap on the 21st, a grade 3. The Hutchinson Stakes will be there to bring you that on ESPN. Tell you more about that in a moment. The Fountain of Youth, always a traditional one for them, leading, of course, to the big one, the $500,000 Florida Derby. On March the 17th, the big grade 1 race there. Then the Gulfstream Park Handicap for the older horses. Their other headliner grade 1 event will be March 24th, and April the 7th, the Orchid Handicap grade 2. Just some of the stakes highlights at Gulfstream and the richest stakes schedule ever. As you mentioned, we'll be heading to Gulfstream Park for our coverage on the Hutchinson Stake telecast. That'll be coming up February the 10th, the first of our race schedule on Budweiser Racing Across America Series, 5 to 6 p.m. on Saturday, Gulfstream Park in Florida. We're looking forward to that February the 10th. And when we come back, we'll start our look at some of the top races in the country. Our feature race of the week from the Breeders' Cup is next. Time to get to the track now for our Breeders' Cup feature race of the week.
This week's feature race is brought to you by the Breeders' Cup, promoting racing year-round with the Breeders' Cup Budweiser Special Stakes Program, the new Premium Stakes Program, and Breeders' Cup Day, racing's $10 million championship.
We went out to Santa Anita this past weekend for the big San Fernando Stakes Grade 2, $200,000 added, mile and an eighth for the 4-year-olds, second leg of the Strube Series for the 4-year-olds. Let's take a look now at the field. Muddy racing conditions, so we had some scratches in the field. Flying Continental raises Stanza, the entry owned by Jack Kent Cook. Raises Stanza was scratched because he'd done his work for the weekend. Won the San Carlos on Saturday. You'll see that later. Secret Slew with Bill Shoemaker up. Now, Bill Shoemaker starting his 6th decade of riding with that race. He began his career in 1949. The 58-year-old Shoemaker, racing's all-time winningest rider, now in his 41st season of racing at Santa Anita. Others in the field, Crown Collection of the D. Wayne Lukas barn, a long price there. Live the Dream, Charlie Whittingham scratched his colt out of the race. Exploding Prospect with Patrick Valenzuela. Exemplary Leader also scratched. Opening verse has Robbie Davis. Music Merci, the favorite, winning the first part of the Strube Series, the Malibu. Lafitte Pinkai has the ride. Music Merci at 2 to 1. Rivermaster at 10. And Splurger at 8 to 1 with Gary Stevens on the outside. On a muddy racetrack, let's go to the call now at Santa Anita. Trevor Denman.
Field for the San Fernando Stakes sent on their way. Opening verse was squeezed a little as the gates open. Music Merci and Exploding Prospect going for the lead. Secret Slew on the inside now takes over. Flying Continental gets up to race in third. Rivermaster on the outside. It's an absolute sprint on there early. Opening verse is 6 lengths off the leader. Then comes Splurger and the trailer Crown Collection. 7/8 of a mile to go, and Exploding Prospect is drawn off to lead it by 3.5 lengths. Flying Continental is down at the rails. Secret Slew right alongside of him. The Feet Pink Eye has Music Mercy in fourth, 5 off the leader. Then it's River Master, another length back to Opening Verse. Splurger is now 7 off that leader. They're taking closer order up there. It's another 4 back to Crown Collection. They pass the 5/8 pole. Exploding Prospect settled down nicely now, leads it by a length and a half to Flying Continental. Racing in third is Secret Slew. Music Mercy is 4 lengths off the leader. Opening Verse inside of him. Splurger is moving up strongly in 6. Splurger down at the rail, going powerfully now to go right through. Splurger's making a big move. They passed the 3/8 pole, Flying Continental, but Splurger continues to just go right on by. He's been passing a horse with every jump. Splurger now coming through to join the leaders with a 1/4 mile to run. Flying Continental is in second, then Secret Slew. Opening Verse is going to have to pull to the outside. Music Mercy's 8 lengths back. They turn for home. Flying Continental finding more. Splurger's now under a ride. Flying Continental leads them past the 8th pole. And it's Flying Continental and Corrie Black clear with a 1/16 of a mile to go. The son of Flying Pacer, Flying Continental, wins the San Fernando. Splurger was second. Secret Slew third.
Flying Continental, owned by Jack Kent Cook, wins the San Fernando. I'll tell you, Jack Kent Cook's Redskins might have had the weekend off, not making it to the NFC Championship game, but he had a big weekend with his horses at Santa Anita. He swept both of the major stakes races. Flying Continental is by the Carter Stud Farm stallion Flying Paster, and out of Continental Girl, trained by Jay Robbins and ridden to victory by Corey Black. Splurger second, and Bill Shoemaker got Secret Slew, a relatively young horse, up for a third place position there. Let's take a closer look now at this San Fernando. We'll go inside the Daily Racing Form with their trackman John White. We'll also hear from winning rider Corey Black.
Well, Flying Continental made a very strong move along the inside rail heading toward the far turn. He took the lead at that point and then had plenty left for the stretch run. Everybody pretty much had their fair chance in this race because at the head of the stretch, Splurger, Flying Continental, and Secret Slew were all right there. It was just a question of who was the best horse, and Flying Continental today was the best horse.
The half-mile pole, I had a chance to go through, and I let him run a little bit just to get up in there to make sure I have my position, you know, around the turn. And I kind of give him a little breather there for about 50 yards. He really relaxed good. Then, you know, I wanted to give him a little breather so he'd have one last good kick. And Gary come up inside me and surprised me a bit because there wasn't much room, but it really made my horse pay attention, so I was kind of glad. And he was on the inside and I was outside, which is where you'd always prefer to be, I would think. And when I set my horse down the drive, he really responded, and he made this, you know, muddy track seem very fast.
Well, as we go to the break, we want to give you a look at what's coming up for you on the race recap. This goes back to last Wednesday, Los Feliz Stakes. See if you can pick a winner. When we come back, we'll tell you what happened in this big race, part of our race recap next on the Digest. Well, we're set to go racing across America to bring you a review of this past week's top thoroughbred stakes events. Let's start down in Florida at Calder Race Course. Saturday, the 18th running of the Grade 2 W.L. McKnight Handicap, 1.5 miles on the turf. Maurice Silbar's Black Tulip, who was second in La Previante, is coming through on the hedge in the black and white. We'll pick up the call from track announcer Phil Salzman of the McKnight Handicap at Calder.
A 1/4 mile to come now. On the inside, Black Tulip finds room, moves through, and now they've got to catch the filly. They come to the top of the stretch. Black Tulip leads by 2 lengths. Down the middle of the course, Drum Taps after the leader second. Then toward the inside, that's Turf a third. They're in the final furlong. Black Tulip is still game. She's there by a 1/2 length. On the outside, Drum Taps comes to her. They come to deep stretch, and Drum Taps takes the W.L. McKnight.
Will Farish's Drum Taps gets up to win the McKnight over Black Tulip by 1/2 length. Previously raced in Europe, this 4-year-old son of Dixieland Band has now won twice on the turf here in the U.S., and the McKnight was his first career stakes win. Drum Taps, trained by Neil Howard, ridden by Jose Santos, and purchased at the 1986 Keeneland November sale for $65,000. The next day's feature at Calder, the first big 3-year-old Derby test of 1990, the 14th running of the Grade 2 mile-length Tropical Park Derby. Stalking the leader, Fiery Best, the gray 16-to-1 long shot, Run Turn.
On the inside, Fiery Best. Run Turn ranges up on the outside now to get the lead. Then it's Unbridled with Shotgun Scott toward the rail. Inspector Moomaw fifth. They come to the furlong pole. They've got Run Turn to catch. He now leads by 2. Fiery Best the second, then Shotgun Scott with Unbridled on the outside. Inspector Moomaw, Country Day with a late run. They come to deep stretch, and Run Turn's going to take the Tropical Park Derby.
The George Julian trainee Run Turn beats the long odds for a 4 1/4 length win in the Tropical Park Derby. The gray colt is by My Charming Turn out of the mare Run Genie and was ridden by Early Fires. From the east to the west now, Santa Anita, last Wednesday's 38th running of the Los Feliz Stakes, a mile for 3-year-olds. Only 4 horses in the field, 2 of them trained and co-owned by D. Wayne Lukas. The colt on the rail is Top Cash, and the $450,000 Keeneland sales purchase, Land Rush, coming up on the outside in the white. Between them, Ron McAnally's Bala Cove. Here's the call from Trevor Denman.
An 1/8 of a mile to go. Bala Cove, Top Cash trying to come back. Land Rush is game in third. It's Bala Cove and Top Cash nose and nose with a 16th to go. Bala Cove, Top Cash, Land Rush coming back. Bala Cove, Land Rush at the wire. So close.
A dead heat between Land Rush and Bala Cove. Land Rush at $450,000 88 Keeneland July sales yearling. The son of the Jinsky II out of the mare Fanable Girl. While co-winner Bala Cove is by Ballard Rock out of the mare Coben, trained by Ron McAnally. Of course, when you have a dead heat, the win-place purse money is combined and divided equally between the winners. Driving rain, a sloppy racetrack, the scene for Saturday's 8th race at Santa Anita. The 7-furlong Grade 2 San Carlos. The race marking the return from stud of 6-year-old Candy's Gold, who last competed in August of 1988. On the lead, the Richard Mandela train O'Reilly. But coming through on the rail, Jack Kent Cook's Raise a Stanza. Let's pick up the action at Santa Anita.
Robbie is holding on gamely. Razor Stanza and Tanker Port. A 16th to go. Robbie, but Razor Stanza's coming to get him. Razor Stanza's got him. Razor Stanza and Russell Bays get up to win the San Carlos half.
Razor Stanza splashes through the stretch to catch Arabi at the wire. This race and the following day's feature at Santa Anita, the San Fernando seen earlier, gave owner Jack Kent Cook the weekend sweep. Razor Stanza, 4-year-old chestnut colt by Razor Man out of the mare Short Stanza, ridden by Russell Bay's Candy's Gold, finished 7th, a very disappointing return for Candy's Gold. Well, we also want to bring an update on a Monday stake at Santa Anita. The El Encino. Let's check the results here as Akinamod wins it, owned by Jack Klugman. Akinamod's time of 1:41 and 1 equal. It's in the air's 10-year-old stakes record for the El Encino, and on February 3rd, Akinamod will try to become the 3rd horse to try to sweep the 3-race La Cañada Series for the 4-year-old fillies. When we come back, a visit with D. Wayne Lukas about some of his record number of champions, so stay with us. While at Santa Anita this past weekend, we spent some time with record-setting trainer D. Wayne Lukas. Now, his 2 Eclipse winners of 1989 gave him a total of 13 individual champions. That is an all-time record for a thoroughbred trainer. And sometime this spring, Team Lukas will surpass the $100 million earnings mark, another first for a trainer. We congratulated Wayne on his new record number of champions and asked him to reflect on some of his favorites.
Well, we're proud of that, of course. I think that for our program to flourish, we're going to have some champions, and to get a couple every year, I think, is very important to our clientele.
Let's go back and review some of these champions, starting back 1982 in Landalusi.
Well, probably the most brilliant filly I've ever trained, maybe the most brilliant racehorse I've ever trained. I thought she just had the raw talent to be anything. Unfortunately, we didn't get to see the true potential, but she was a good one.
1983, Althea.
Althea was a really solid, Aladar's first crop, really solid race filly, and the kind that every trainer would like to have. She was the kind of filly that every one of us every day wish that we can get.
1984, champion 3-year-old filly, Life's Magic.
Well, that was a special one for us. Of course, she was champion twice, and she was the kind of filly that always rose to the occasion. When she had to win a big race, she came through. You know, you recall she beat the Ladies' Secret in the Breeders' Cup, and she was the type of filly that when it seemed like it was all on the line, she ran her best, and I liked her for that.
86, champion 2-year-old colt, Capote.
Here was a brilliant horse. Too bad that he got sick. From his 2-year-old year to his 3-year-old year, he had an intestinal disorder, and I think it compromised his chances for real greatness. But he did enough as a 2 to be champion. He was a very, very talented horse. This horse is doing very well in the stud, and I still think he'll make his mark as a sire.
1986 was also a year where the whole program really came to fruition with, of course, Lady Secret.
Oh, I think everybody that's in the business would eventually like to have a horse of the year. And, of course, she was special because we raised her in the farm in Oklahoma, and I was responsible for the mating of Secretariat to Great Lady Emmerdam. And she was such a tough campaigner. And, you know, to have our first horse of the year, she just did it all for us.
88, of course, your Kentucky Derby winner, the filly, winning colors.
Well, again, this is like Lady Secret, the first Derby winner, and, of course, a great filly. I think she's going to go down in the history books as one of the real good ones, not because she won the Kentucky Derby, because she was just a good, solid filly and again, a very, very strong, powerful, good athlete.
Tough filly, open mind, champion 2-year-old filly of 88, and then this year, champion 3-year-old filly.
Again, a double champion and a blue-collar worker at best. I mean, she is an overachiever. Here's a filly that got real good at 2 and actually stayed with her form all the way through her 3-year-old season, winning 10 in a row. And I think that she's got a chance to have a big season again at 4. We're going to bring her back, but she's certainly an overachiever.
And you said you wanted to improve and make a mark in your grass program. This year you have the champion.
Well, that's important because I think we needed to give that balance to our whole program and get a good grass horse. And, of course, winning the Arlington Million and then the Breeders' Cup with Steinland made the whole thing come together for us, and I hope it'll lead to bigger and better things for our grass horses.
And Wayne, the champion that many people felt should have been, the Grand Canyon.
Well, you know, we'd like to see him gotten the championship. But on the other hand, he had a great season, and he did something that no other 2-year-old in the history of the breed has ever done, and that's run a mile and 133 flat. We were a little bit disappointed, but on the other hand, we think he's an exceptional horse, and I think his 3-year-old year is going to bear that out for us, and we're excited about the coming spring and, of course, the classics with him. And he's sitting in a very, very nice position in that not only did he have a record year and earned $1 million as a 2-year-old, but he is sitting in a position where if he would get lucky in the Triple Crown and run well, he's got $1 million bonus in Kentucky if he can win the Kentucky Derby, and then you add in the Chrysler Challenge of $5 more million. And conceivably, if he could put 4 or 5 races together back to back, which is not unheard of, he could bring out $7 or $8 million by July.
And Damian Lukas told us that his stable goal this year, 1990, $20 million. Wayne's also the leader, of course, of our monthly Lanes In Trainer Awards with 7 over the last 2 years. He starts 1990 with 3 stakes victories already, including 2 last week in the Los Feliz at Santa Anita and the With Pleasure Stakes at Aqueduct. Jay Robbins swept the 2 big stakes at Santa Anita this past weekend. You saw those on the show. Other trainers with some greatest stakes wins this past week deserve some credit. George Rusty Arnold in the Grade 3 affectionately. And Saturday at Bay Meadows, Jerry Hollendorfer, Saddle Variety Road to win the big stake up there. When we come back, Dave Johnson with Horse Talk, one of our favorite riders, Jerry Bailey, so stay with us.
If you weren't part of the New York Racing Association's simulcasting network in 1989, here's some of what you missed.
The entry running 1-2, dancing spree, seeking to go, closing ground, proper reality, to the wire. Open mind closing, open mind on the outside, gains the lead. It's New York's Easy Goer in front.
Don't miss out in 1990. Call us today.
Well, Dave Johnson on Horse Talk is going to visit with jockey Jerry Bailey. Now, Jerry's going to talk about how to ride on some off-race tracks. We found out about those this past weekend at Santa Anita. Here's Dave Johnson with Jerry Bailey.
Talking horses, talking about riding horses in the mud with Jerry Bailey, who's all cleaned up now. But tell us about what it's like riding in the mud.
Well, it poses a few different problems. If you have speed, naturally, you don't get too muddy, you don't go through too many goggles. But if you come from behind, which most of them do, they can't all be out front, you have the aspect of picking up weight. There's several pounds of mud that comes on you and your horse. Your horse may not like it either. Just as you get it in your face, he gets it in his face, and he doesn't have goggles. So you've got to feel him out. If he's not handling it well, you got to get him out in the clear.
Now, tell us about these goggles. How many sets do you normally wear, and when do you pull them down?
Well, on a real bad day, you can go out with about 6 pair, and they're all stacked on top of each other. And as they get covered with mud, you pull them down, and you have a fresh pair. And God forbid you pull them all down, which I've done it from time to time, and then you're out. But as they get dirty, you pull them down, and you try and do it with little bother to your horse as possible.
You mentioned the amount of weight that's picked up by mud. How many pounds do you carry in excess weight when you come from the back of the pack on a muddy day?
In a longer race, you can pick up 5-6 pounds of mud. On your person, 5, 6, maybe on your horse another 3 or 4. It just depends.
Let's talk about horses and jockeys liking the mud. Do some of those animals really enjoy the goo?
Some of them really do. Some of them excel, and some of them don't like it so much. As far as jockeys, if you got a good horse, you like it just fine.
Jerry, what about riding in a heavy rainstorm or in the snow?
That poses the most problem. Mud is mud, and that's okay, but when it's raining, it's very difficult to control your reins. They become very slick, and if you get in a precarious position and you have to make a sudden adjustment, it's a lot tougher than when you have a firm grip on a dry day.
Are there different kinds of mud at different tracks? Are some tracks more sandy or more muddy than others?
Absolutely. Some mud is thick and heavy and favors come from behind horses, and some mud is very clean and slick and get right to the bottom, and it favors speed. So it changes from track to track.
Are you a good mud jockey?
If my horse is a good mudder, I'm a good mudder.
Talking horses, talking riding in the mud with Jerry Bailey, and we'll have more horse talk as usual next week.
Thank you, Dave. Jerry Bailey, of course, now president of the National Jockeys Guild. A couple of notes for you. Charlie Whittingham had a big-time Sunday night, a roast for him at the Sheraton Grand Hotel in California to benefit the California Equine Retirement Fund. A great time out there with that. They raised over $20,000 thanks to Jack Van Berg's expert auctioneering at that. Bill Shoemaker had his final day of riding up north in California at Bay Meadows Race Course. Had 2 mounts, had a second and a first. The win, $8,832 for Bill Shoemaker. And some other jockey notes. Vince Bricelli, Jumbo they've called him, announced his retirement from riding. 37-year-old native of Charlestown, West Virginia. Has ridden 3,545 winners. Also, Kent DeSomo, congratulations to the 19-year-old rider who, of course, set a national record in 1989 with the most victories by any rider in a single season, 597. He was married this past Friday to the former Sonia Romero. They're honeymooning in Florida. And actor Tim Conway has been chosen the Big Sport of Turfdom Award winner for his work in promoting thoroughbred racing. He'll be honored at the Eclipse Awards in Florida. That's it. See you next week on the Budweiser Thoroughbred Digest.
Budweiser Thoroughbred Digest, the weekly national report on thoroughbred racing, has been brought to you by Budweiser. Beechwood aged for that clean, crisp taste. This Bud's for you. By the Breeders' Cup, racing's $10 million championship. By the Illinois Department of Agriculture, promoting Illinois registered horses year-round. And by Caesars Palace Las Vegas, relive the legend. Ground transportation provided by Thrifty Car Rental. For reservations at over 700 locations worldwide.